Going on, man? All right, fitness family, welcome to another episode of the True Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Adrian Conway, and today I am joined by Coach Chance Porter. Chance, how are you doing? This is our second time making this run through.
Second time, yeah, I'm doing good.
Thank you for your patience, man. Second time's a charm. I like to pretend that I am technically illiterate from time to time, and right now I'm doing a really good job. Folks, today we wanted to jump in and have a discussion about the importance of compliance. Chance and I both have been in this industry for a long time. You know, for me, to be honest, I feel like as though this is the only job I've ever had. I tell people all the time in a non-joking matter that I've never grown up and had to have an adult job. But it's not all the way true. I mean, being a coach and certainly owning my own business is certainly an adult thing, but you know, coaching people for a living is a very different flavor, and being your own boss is also a different flavor. So I've enjoyed it for a long time, but I've had a lot of lessons. One is that intensity is important. Training style can even be important, and what you do certainly matters, but the frequency in which you do it and how long you do it for tends to be the biggest separator. So compliance is king. You've been running and managing a gym, coaching. Gosh, man, you've had thousands and thousands of members and probably thousands of total athletes that you've worked with in your life, to be honest with you. What is your interpretation of compliance? Like, how is it successful for the members that you've seen through the years?
Biggest success, like you said, is being consistent, right? They show up, they get the work done, even if it's not pretty, even if it's like a bad day, you know? And sometimes I think the best when people are training is that sometimes you just got to go by feel more than anything else, right? If the pan's hot, you just keep cooking, you know? And there's been countless times where, you know, we're doing whatever, we're doing, you know, some Olympic lifting or whatever, and it's not supposed to build to a max, and someone feels good and they just want to keep going, just let them do it, right? That may be the day they get the PR. I mean, I know there's been multiple times when I feel like garbage. I'm like, there's no way this is going to get up. And then it's like a day you hit a PR, and the day you feel great, supposed to hit a 1 rep max, it's on the training. It's like the worst day of your life. So
yeah. And what do you do? What do you have them do on that day? Right. Like, so on the day that it's not there, do you still do the lifts? You just don't hit the percentage, or how do you feel like you frame that for your athletes?
Yeah, usually I'll tell people, like, let's say you have 20 minutes build to a max of snatch. Let's say that's what it is. Hey, if it's not a good day and you're at 12, 15 minutes and you've already hit it and you've failed 2 or 3 times, well, let's not just sit and fail all day, drop it back down, take it to 80, 90%, and let's just work technique at that point, you know?
Sure.
I mean, you don't want to just create more bad habits, and teaching yourself how to fail a snatch or to fail a clean and jerk or whatever the case may be is not going to help your fitness. Right. And it's going to get in your head even more. And then you have this mental game of the next time you go to a max and you see that same, you know, for some people, let's say it's 225, right? 245s on each side. It just gets in their head, and then they just struggle over and over again because, you know, could have been the training session we lasted a max. They failed it 4 times, and now it's just been in their head for 6 months. They've just been thinking about it. So that's why I tell people, like, hey, if you fell and it's not feeling good, cool, then let's just move on working well that day. And you can still get better, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I've done it through the years, man. And I think for myself, I've certainly been a fan of, like, throughout my years when I'm not competing, I'm a cherry picker. Like, I'll just be honest. And the beauty with me, and I have a full, like, I mean, of course it's a biased perspective of myself, but I tend to lean into things that I know I need to do versus things that I always want to do. Like, I enjoy growth. I love to push myself. So even if I don't feel like running, and running is something I know I'll do, I'll go pound some pavement or go do a track or go get on the treadmill, whatever it is. But I have learned through my years how to navigate intensity, for sure. Intensity and load. One of the best aspects of being able to do that is that you can consistently show up, just like you mentioned, on days you don't feel like you have it, on days you feel like you're a little flat, on days you're really tired, and still move. So I load the bar. I might keep it at 50 to 70%, somewhere in that, like, well below submaximal range, where I'm like, okay, this is technically dependent here. I don't need a lot of pop for my central nervous system. I don't need to be jumping out the gym to hit these percentages, and it's not going to create a lot of physiological stress, but I can do the work. And then often I feel better because I did the work and I didn't take myself there emotionally to be upset with all the frustration from the failed lifts and everything else. Right.
Yep.
Because we both get to work with, you know, there's two different tracks, of course, that we offer with True Fitness. It's one-to-many with all of our group programs, but then the one-to-one. And the tricky thing with one-to-one is that if we get to see our athletes frequently, it's a bit more of an advantage on like reading their body language, seeing how they walk into the gym. Oh, you know what? Hey, I know I have this on the program for you today, but we're not going to do that. Check this out. This is what we're going to do instead. But man, most of my clients I never see, right? Or when I do see them, it's after the fact and it's on videos that they've sent me of the percentage work or of the missed lifts or of the great lifts that they've already done, not in the moment. And so I think that lesson that you mentioned, exactly that, is to be able to pick and choose, go above or go below the percentage and give yourself that freedom. Have you had a hard time, or like, what's that been like for you if you're working with someone remotely? Like, what advice would you give to athletes out there that are like, hey, Coach Chan's has this program, but man, I'm feeling it a little bit today. How do they know when to go and when to just kind
So
of be
like
obedient to what's there?
what I tell people sometimes is like, if they're for, let's say like intensity, right? They're feeling burnout, they're feeling like they can't push, or maybe they've, pushed 3 times hard that week and they feel kind of stuck. Usually what I tell people is like, hey, if you can see the whole week, look at the whole week. Now pick 1 or 2 workouts that you want to go ham in, you want to
Yeah.
go hard in. And the other ones, you find something that you need to work on. Don't worry about the time, right? Like, you need to get the time out of your head, because that's what you do for the 2 workouts that you're going hard in. The other ones, you're working on something. So let's say, it's a workout with wall balls and I want to do 20 unbroken every single round. Well, I'm going to rest as I need to hit the 20 unbroken, because that's my goal for the day. Hey, got to do the 20s unbroken. If I'm 1 minute slower, it doesn't freaking matter, because my goal wasn't to get the fastest time in the world. My goal was to do the 20 unbroken. And that's what I tell like a lot of people that are like, hey, I can only do, 10 pull-ups in a row and I want to get to 20. It's like, cool. Anytime we see these work out with 10 or 15, do them unbroken. And if you go slower, who freaking cares? Because you're not worried about that right now. You're worried about working on, pull-up endurance and doing more in a row in a workout.
Right.
And I think sometimes that helps people, because not only does it get them better at some of the weaknesses, but it kind of gets the stress of, sometimes like for me, example, for most of the athletes out there, you want to be number one, you want to get the fastest time, right? Or you want to go put yourself in the dirt. That's because that's just what you've known.
Right.
And sometimes it just takes a little bit of the pressure off, because this is what always happens, right? Hey, I want to do the pull-ups I want to work on 15, 20 pull-ups unbroken. Cool. Let's throw them in a workout. And then what happens? I just went to 5s and singles because I just was resting too long. It's just like, dude, but that wasn't the point,
Exactly.
So I think sometimes having people look at it, because they'll know as an athlete, I mean, at least you hope they know as an athlete, like, hey, I struggle with this movement. Coach knows I struggle with this movement. That's why it's programmed in there. But I struggle with this movement. I struggle to do this one 15 in a row. So that's my goal today. And I'm going to tell the coach, hey, my goal was this, whatever. I wasn't feeling too good. I'm going to do this, And I think that kind of helps them too. Because just like we talked about last time, if you look at football, not every day is a game day. You got to work on some skills and some things that you struggle with at a little bit of a, not lower intensity, but like not, all out effort.
Oh yeah. Yeah, man. Growing up playing football, playing in college, it's like the first day back from a game, what do? You do nothing. You rest. You watch film. You watch film of the game before, so you learn. Then the next day you like do some shakeouts. You might go in the weight room. You might run around a little bit, do a little bit of conditioning, but it's to get your body back, get your legs back underneath you for the next day of practice. And that first day of practice isn't even full go and full bore. It's like, it's just elevated above a walkthrough. You're getting some full speed reps in, but there's no contact. It's really lightly padded. You're introducing the game plan for the week. Like, it's the first time that you're running plays that you're going to run the week to come. Then the next day it's full go. It's like ones on ones. You get about 10 to 20 plays almost live. You're not tackling to the ground or anything, but like you get like, that's a hard day, right? So it's one hard day in the middle of the week. And then the next day, guess what? It's more like the day before again. You're backing off the intensity. You're not going ones on ones anymore. You're going against the scout team. So the lesser competition, they're just giving you a look. It's almost, again, you're going hard. It's not quite a walkthrough. And then that next day, again, it's a walkthrough, and you're getting ready again for the next game. You're walking through, you're refining some of the things. Of course, all week long, you're watching film. And then the next day is game day. Like it's just like, it's this constant undulation of controlling intensity by focusing on different aspects and different things. And even add to your argument there, like your position on this, every day in practice, you do different things where you go like 7-on-7. People recognize it's almost like flag football, where it's just like the receivers and the tight ends and the running backs, and then the defensive backs and the linebackers out there. Right. And then another drill might be 9-on-9, where the DBs and the receivers, they don't even come over to the drill. It's only the big guys. It's the D line, O line, linebackers, and running backs. And we're going head to head, like we're strategizing and simply working on run game, fitting certain gaps. So again, this is like us focusing on Olympic weightlifting and positional techniques. This is us like going through EMOMs or density work, where it's like right now, currently in this grit cycle on True Competitor, we've got like those hey, this is a 3-minute AMRAP of 3 unbroken strict handstand push-ups. Then it's a 2-minute AMRAP of doubles strict handstand push-ups. See how many you can do. Then you got 1-minute AMRAP, right? So we're segmenting the sport so that we can have growth in each and every endeavor, where it's endurance with our PM, like optional, endurance intervals, or if it's the gymnastics by itself or barbell work by itself. And then we put it together a couple times a week and we race our face off and we learn, right?
Yep. And I think sometimes, when people, you talk about the football and the practices, and some people might think, oh, well, they're just saying you only go hard once a week and the other days you just kind of sugarcoat it. But like, if we go with that approach before, if I struggle to do 30 wall balls unbroken and I got to do it for 5 rounds, it's going to be hard for me. The intensity is going to be there. It's just going to be a different type of intensity. It's not going to be like doing 100 burpees for time intensity. So there's
Exactly.
different levels of intensity, that still improve fitness. You need all of it, right? Like I would say, you do strict JT. That's not very intense, but I would say it's challenging in a different format, So I think, there's different levels to it. There is, of course, you want the intensity of going hard, but there's also, different forms of intensity that still improve fitness.
Yeah, and the beauty is that there's earned intensity, right? So again, unfortunately, the fitter that you are, when coach programs, hey, these wall balls have to be unbroken. Well, if you're already good at wall balls, this whole workout's going to be a nightmare for you. Like it's going to be a rough go. If you
Yeah.
suck at wall balls, you're going to have to rest and earn your opportunity to go because you need to get them unbroken. That was what you were told to do. Same way with the other coin when it's like gymnastics work, right? For me right now, man, I went through the training last week on True Competitor, and like I had to do a little bit of standing around when it was triples for those handstand push-ups because I haven't been upside down very much, right? Versus someone who is a handstand push-up ninja, that became way more metabolic for them than maybe they even wanted for 3 minutes straight of handstand push-ups because they can always bang out a triple,
Yep.
And so I think I love that. And I think the beauty of this is it really all ties into compliance because of consistency. And now with, of course, the way that we manage our business is that it's 2 tracks. We have a one-to-many and a one-to-one. Both will have the same struggles in different degrees, right? We know our one-to-one clients, so we adjust weights, we adjust movements, we are bringing up their weaknesses. We have a bit more of like a pin on their capacity and where they need growth. When it's one-to-many, we don't know even who all is coming into the program and what they're doing, but the structure is in such a way that like this is going to work for large amount of the masses to improve them radically with their fitness, as long as they're consistent, of course, and not adding in a bunch of junk volume and all that other stuff. But there are some tips and strategies that I think we can throw out for people to consider, right? And I think this might even go into the scaling option and like weights and all that kind of stuff. But you mentioned this, Chan's, like how different days of the week we do have different focuses, right? Where it's like Monday, for example, you might queue up the team to be like, hey, I want you to improve, go big on these sets here today, and go about it that way. Or, the next day might be, I want you to improve speed every round. And then the next day might be burn it down, of course. But the reason that we do this is because we want an emphasis of growth in different aspects of fitness, as you mentioned, where it's like, the intensity is still there. It's just a different kind of intensity. Conceptually, why do you think this is so foreign to a lot of CrossFitters? Like everybody feels like it's got to feel like Fran every day to get better.
Um, I would say the biggest thing that I've seen from people is that they don't understand, or maybe they do, I don't know. That like the whole point of if my goal is to do quarterfinals and go to semifinals, then everything leading up to that should be me figuring out what my capacity is in a certain movement.
Yep.
So if I'm doing a muscle up, let's say something we did last week that was like rowing and muscle ups, right? 30 cal row, 15 muscle ups, 3 rounds, rest, 3 minutes or something between. And I only do sets of 5s on the muscle up. I'm never going to know what my max is. If they do the open workout with the thrusters and the muscle ups at the end, in the 15 and the 15 at 135 thruster for guys, right? And I want to do a big set and all I've ever done is 5s, then I'm probably only ever going to do 5s because that's what I've done forever. So what I think sometimes people don't want to do is like, dude, the whole point of training is to see what that is. Go to failure because it doesn't freaking matter. You get 2 minutes slower on a Monday piece. Who cares? Wouldn't you rather do it there than in a quarterfinals workout?
Yep.
So I think sometimes people are so wanting to race or be the fastest that they never take a risk, and it's okay. The amount of times I go, all right, I'm going to do these, 38 toes bar unbroken the first 2 rounds, and I'm going to probably blow up, but I just want to kind of see what's going to happen,
Yep.
And that's okay.
That's
It's
right.
okay to do that. You
That's
know,
right.
and I think sometimes people should do that more, because then when you get to a workout, you know exactly, okay, I know I can row at a 1400 cal per hour pace for 50 calories for 3 rounds because I've done it. No problem. I don't have to worry about it. But if
Yep.
I ever row at a 1200 always because I've never tried, then that's what I'm going to row at. And then it may screw me over, you know?
Yep.
So I think sometimes adding in that stuff, people put too much stock on having to race every single day when training is all about experimenting.
That's right. I love that, man. And training is built around experimentation and failure. And if you're not pushing your threshold, folks, if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I really want to learn what I'm capable of. I really want to push my threshold. You will never do that unless you are leaning into failure probably a couple times a week. It doesn't have to be every day. Certainly doesn't have to be every day, but in different ways, a couple times a week, you should be risking it all essentially, because that's the only way that you'll learn. And then there's times and seasons for different things, right? So, you know, if you have a one-to-one athlete, Chance, that struggles with local muscle endurance, I mean, there's no better time than right now to be building up that local muscle endurance, right? So you can kind of dial it in for them. You can focus on that for them. Same with like strength. If someone's struggling with their squatting and you're like, listen, of course we got to get them stronger, but we also got to be building their legs now for the test of the season. Now we have an opportunity to create these unique squat cycles. We could take a general squat cycle, almost like what we're doing with True Competitor, right? Where it's nuanced. It's like, hey, we're going through, Mondays we have alternating front squats and back squats, right? Every 90 seconds, you're going to execute a specific rep scheme of front squats. Then the next 90 seconds, you're going to execute a specific rep scheme of back squats. You're going to continue this for 10 sets. The goal is start heavy, stay heavy, keep it as heavy as you can. Now, we might be doing 3s and 5s. We might be working with a client, though, that can be on the same kind of work to rest interval. So it's going to be similar, but maybe they need to be doing, 7s and 9s, right? Or 7s and 10s, or because they have low neuromuscular efficiency, like they just need the high reps in order to get a great response. Whereas in our True Competitor cycle, they're going to be digressing into those lower rep schemes and much higher loads towards the end of this thing as we start to peak them through for their tester, which we won't allude to what that tester is going to be yet in a few weeks here. But if you guys are in the all access group or following True Competitor track, keep your eyes out. Couple weeks you'll have a fun tester we just talked through, so that should be good. But I bring this up for one-to-one clients, man. In your mind, what's the number one thing? This is for a general caveat. We're in November and we know we got the grit cycle going. You've designed much of it in regards to like where you think athletes need to start trending towards for open prep. What do you think people need to be focusing on that are listening out there right now that might not be following the program, but like, they're like, oh man, I really want to level up my training this year. I want to be in a better place than I was last year.
Yeah, well, the easiest answer is go back and look at, last year's open, or, previous years when you did quarterfinals or whatever you did. And then the leaderboard's going to tell you the truth.
Yep.
Right. And then I would just look at stuff around that, and I would just either dissect it through, okay, was it the movement, or was it the format of the workout, or was it just how the workout is laid out? Like, I think, okay, 2 years ago, I think it was 3 rounds of 50 burpee box jumps, 50 wall balls. If you never done that high volume of burpee box jumps, then yeah, of course that workout is going to be destruction for you. I'm not saying you have to throw in 150 burpee box jumps every single week, but if the highest number of reps you do in a workout for burpees is 15 over the bar, 3 rounds of 15, and that's all you ever do, then you're kind of, I would switch that up a little bit. I mean, go and look at the open. They have you do 21 snatches on each arm and then 21 burpees. I mean, you totaled up, that's 90 something burpees when they finish that. That's high volume of burpees for a 7-minute workout,
Yep.
And I think sometimes just looking at that kind of thing, you can really nail down, because sometimes, you talk to these people that want to be competitive. They're probably big fish in a small pond, really. I mean,
All the time. Yep.
They're like, hey, I'm number one in the open, or number one in my gym. I should be pretty good. Then you go to these quarterfinals and you see like, oh man, I thought I was good at toes to bar. I actually really suck at toes to bar. So I think that's the easiest thing, is that's the low hanging fruit. Go and look at those scores and then see, okay, why was it? Was it a heavy barbell I had to cycle? Was it a light barbell for a ton of reps? Was it a lot of hinging? Was it a lot of burpees? Like, what was it? And then that can be the easiest way. And then I'm not saying you have to do that same workout every single time, but you start adding in that kind of volume. Because generally, when you get to quarterfinals and stuff like that, there's going to be some high volume stuff that you're going to have to be ready for, and I think you just got to get that squared away.
I mean, even in the open, man, even in the open,
Yeah,
to
even
be
in the
honest,
open.
right? Not that the open, so right, like, and this is kind of where our conversation will be, not necessarily top level, but 25% or 20%, whatever they're taking this year in the open to go to advance to quarterfinals. A lot of people listening to this aren't going to be intimidated by that number. Because they've been doing CrossFit for some time, they might be able to train on their own. They're following our program or All Access in their garage or in their affiliate after they do the class. Like they're already thinking about these things to be great, right? They want to be great. The one thing that I would say too, to add to what you're saying, is for them to identify their threshold number or their breaking point. And what I mean by that is, you mentioned a couple numbers. You're like, man, 90 reps of burpees in a workout. So where is that for you? Is your tipping point in a workout like once you get to about 70 reps of burpees and then you just fall apart? Well, then the downside is you can't just practice burpees and you can't just practice fast burpees for sets of 10 and sets of 15. You need to put yourself in circumstances and situations where you reach that threshold and go beyond, and you mentally execute it on purpose in order to continue to repeat. Maybe it's cyclical efforts, maybe it's intervals, which is this is where we introduce that discussion inside of the discussion with intervals, man. And the beauty of why we use them so freaking often. And it's not just 6 rounds for time or 8 rounds for time or even 3 rounds for time, because of the stimulus that we're trying to elicit. And this is one of the best ways to kind of mask volume without being affected by intensity, right? Because if you go, and let's pretend for an athlete, their threshold is that 75 rep mark. Well, if we're doing 15 every round and we're doing some intervals, maybe we're going to go 2 rounds of something, whether it's toe to bar burpee, which is a disgusting combination, folks. If you need to get better at burpees, go ahead and couple it with something that is midline aggressive, like GHD sit-ups or toes to bar. Do your burpees, do 15 toes to bar, 15 GHDs with 15 burpees. Do 2 rounds of that for time. Be steady. Give yourself a rest interval, 2.5 to even up to 3 minutes. Now we've got 30 reps going down. You go through 3 rounds of that. That's going to give you 90 total repetitions accumulated of both. Now, if you need to go beyond, you go beyond. You add another interval, you add in 5 reps on each interval, and then all of a sudden you're accumulating more work. But the idea here is that we can accumulate, break through that threshold point, and then the next time we test, the next time Chan throws in a tester where it's like 50 burpees at once or 100 in a workout, that's our opportunity to reevaluate. Now, have we made them better? Because we trained that cusp. So I think one of the biggest pitfalls for a lot of folks is that they know a movement that they struggle with, but they have no idea where the threshold is, and they don't know how to train around it to actually improve it beyond that threshold. So I think that's where I was kind of taking that thought. And intervals, I know you mentioned just the other day about like the power of intervals and how and why we do them.
Yeah. And I think, so basically what I said was that the whole point of an interval is to go faster than you normally would if it was 3 rounds for time or 5 rounds for time or whatever the case may be. And I think a lot of people just think, hey, I suck at burpees. I'm just going to do a lot of burpees at the same speed as I've always done them. And then when they get announced in the open or quarterfinals, I'm just going to do them like Colton Mertens fast. I'm just going to be unreal at them. And that's not the case. You got to train the speed just like on any other movement, right? Yep. And that's where intervals come into play, because now I can train it as, faster than I need to, or a faster pace than normal. And then I can recover and repeat that effort. And it would be like repeating 400s if I want to run a faster mile. It's the same thing. I can't just run, at a 10-minute pace and expect to get a 7-minute mile one day. I got to start training faster. So I think, at some point, that's, if you want to rise up, you're going to have to look at speed of the movement. How efficient can I be, and how quickly can I do this, and how long can I hold on to that pace? Right. I mean, you look at these people at semifinals, everybody can do 50 toes to bar unbroken. So now it's how fast can you do them, or can you do them, sets of 30 unbroken for 3 rounds or 5 rounds or whatever, So I think that starts to come into play. So it's not just about doing it unbroken. It's about now adding speed to that movement.
Absolutely, man. And the crazy thing is, speed is such an important thing. I don't talk about this a lot. There was a very well known, actually a 2-time CrossFit Games champ athlete was following the tutelage of a coach. And this is like 2017, and showed up to the games, and there was this run that they were going to do, like a run swim run. We were there as a team that year, right? From Wasatch. It was the year we beat the Mayhem in Madison. Okay. And the individuals had to do a run swim run, and it was like 2 days before. You know how it goes. Like at the games, there's like people rub shoulders with one another all the time in a friendly way. Like you just see other coaches, you see other camps, they're doing their warm-ups, they're doing their run-throughs like the week before, everybody's seen each other. And we see this athlete, and of course I'm working with Brute Strength at the time. We got our whole squad there, all our coaching staff is there. And we're watching this camp run through some of these intervals, and they're like running through them kind of slow, right? Like they're coming off a run, they're working on their transitions into the water, and it's like slow and relaxed. And we had just finished our session, and it was the exact opposite, because we were trying to elicit a speed that we knew actually we wouldn't even get to in competition, so that we didn't feel flat. Like there's that arousal, right? Like there's psychologically and physiologically. The last thing that you want to do going into competition is feel flat, which means like going through something at like 80% effort is never a good idea when you're about to throw down. What you need to do is elicit somehow that 105 or 110% speed, and then rest. But touch the speed. Otherwise, you're going to be absolutely destroyed. Your hamstrings, your attachment points for your muscles, whether it's your tricep, your shoulders, your lats, your hamstrings, your calves, like in those areas, you'll be so sore because you're literally like being more explosive every rep than you're used to. But long story short, we watched this athlete go through that. And we're like, oh man, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of wisdom in that. But this athlete was a 2-time CrossFit Games champ. They show up and they get blasted on this run, swim, run, and they were flat. Because what happened was they started fast and felt good and looked good. But then all of a sudden, that speed that they got used to kind of like their run through with, they were flat. They began to build fatigue that they could not shuttle, right? They could not shuttle the lactate that was coming through because they weren't used to running at this speed. And you know how it goes, bro. I mean, it's undefeated. You do any kind of run at the CrossFit Games, everybody and their mom's coming out hot. Yeah. Way too hot. And so we watched this happen to the athlete, and then we were like, oh man. And then she just got dusted. And it was kind of like the way the rest of the games would go for her. Definitely wasn't a threat or a contender. And it didn't seem like she showed up maybe who she was in the past. But I bring that up because that's a real life example of the highest level of competition where coaches might not have an understanding. Athletes might not have an understanding of like why we do what we do with intervals and how to approach them. And yes, there's different like times and places for everything. And I'll bring this up too. And this is going way beyond the scope of what I wanted to cover in this podcast. So you guys, when I mentioned compliance, that is now out the door, and we are full bore, like nerd coach athlete talk. So hopefully you enjoy the context and the value of this episode, but slow intervals, right? Or slow mixed modal work. I want to bring that up as a topic, right? Like, and what I mean by this is, instead of athletes, because, and you know this, Chance, but like zone 2 is like, people are completely obsessed with zone 2 work to a degree. And I would say not everybody. And I think there's camps out there doing a great job at mixed modal stuff and intervals and power intervals and aerobic power intervals and all the things that we could exist. But a lot of the everyday athlete is hearing everything about the benefits of zone 2, and they're doing it a lot. And this can elicit that same type of muscle tone that I talked about with going through slow intervals, is that you're not used to going from movement to movement, or you're used to always doing it slow. What are your thoughts on the time and place for zone 2? Like, have you had a lot of history with it? Do you do it personally? Do you ever have your regular day-to-day athletes do it, like at the affiliate or anything like that?
Yeah, I've had people like ask me about it, and I just say, I think it's silly.
Yeah.
You know, the only time I think honestly zone 2 is just to get some volume accumulation. So, you know, I think there's a time and place. If I'm a horrible rower and I have bad mechanics, then for sure. Yeah. If I, struggle on the bike and I need to just get some volume tolerance, yeah, for sure. But I don't look at going zone 2 is going to help me do, the games workout where they start and end with 50 cals on the bike, and then they do the yoke carries and the parallel handstand pushups. Zone 2 is not going to help in that scenario, because look at everyone at the end, they got to go ham. Right. So I think there's a time and a place for it, but I would just do it more for like, hey, you feel like you want to get some more volume, or you feel like you need to move, cool, throw it in on a recovery day.
Right.
Totally fine. Maybe if we're getting close to that, we're getting ready for semifinals and we need to get some more volume, whether that's running or whatever the case may be, is then for sure. But I think, everyday affiliate person, now you get enough variance. I don't think you're going to, I would just say there's more low hanging fruit than zone 2.
Correct. Perfectly put. Perfectly put. Yeah, and I think that's it right there. I think there's more low-hanging fruit. I think from a time cost, it's expensive. It's
Yes.
expensive. You got to be in the gym for a long time. You got to be on the erg for a long time to settle into a heart rate. You got to typically go 30 minutes or beyond and even to elicit the physiological adaptation that people are seeking. So no, it's not like you can sit down for 10 minutes and do it. It's not like 15 minutes and there's no benefits there. You got to take it to an intensity in order to get benefits in that short of time domain, which typically is what we got, is like short amounts of time. And so when you think about training functional movements at high intensity or doing slow zone 2, man, the bang for your buck is that, yes, you can use zone 2, but it typically wants to fall on the days that you should be resting or low intensity or whatever.
Yeah.
And I've seen, again, a beautiful combination of time and place. For example, for me, and I think this is where we get to this level of the discussion where it's like, man, there are athletes that are young in their training age that have glaring weakness for aerobic development. Man, throw them a lot of zone 2. They need it, right? Like, have them hit intensity a few days a week, but as long as that's their strong suit and they're very fast twitch and they might even be obnoxiously strong for our sport or the demand of our sport. Let's talk about someone like Matt Frazier, for example. Of course, he did a lot of zone 2, folks. He spent his entire athletic developing years being an Olympic weightlifter. He would do a clean and jerk, be completely out of breath and sit down for 5 minutes, then do another clean and jerk, right? And so I think people see what elites do and what works for elites, and they fall in love with the sexiness and the draw of what works for them. And it's like, you're not them. You're not them, and you're so far from them. You have no idea how much genetically and their training history played into those choices and why it was so beneficial for them. And you could talk to the aerobic development coach of all aerobic development coaches, Chris Henshaw. The vast majority of his training is going to be in interval form. He doesn't just send people like, go run for 60 minutes. That is so few and far between. He doesn't just send, hey, go do steady state for 45 minutes. Now, does it happen? Yes. Are you on specific outcome-based type training? Typically, yes. Does he know that you need that? Yes. But it's going to be a lot of like high threshold work, recover, slow jog, high threshold work, walk nice and easy, then go on like a 10-minute easy jog. And then you're back to more high threshold work, but you're training at the end of your means to some degree, whether it's technical proficiency, like, you might get something even from us. It's like, hey, we might ask you to meet your threshold while your technique is still very proficient. Like you might get rowing intervals and we're like, yeah, we want your rowing to look the same when you're going fast as when you're going slow. If that's not the case, you need to chill out. But we don't want bad habits to compromise high intensity. So I think that's cool. And I think that's just, hopefully this brings and illuminates a little bit of some considerations for people when they see, hey man, maybe I need to be doing 3 hours of zone 2. Some of you probably should. And there's context with all this stuff. Like we don't mean to vilify zone 2, but it's just not our sport, man. It's just not our sport. Right. And I think it does work for elite cyclists. And I think it does work for elite runners. And I think it does work for triathletes. And I think it does work for marathoners. It's going to work probably pretty darn good for a lot of high rocks athletes. That is not where we make our most money though. Right. When you're playing the sport of fitness in regards to CrossFit and the way that we define what fitness is. So yeah, I think that's all prevalent and really good points. Now, another follow-up question to that is, what do you think about mixed modal work that's not high intensity? So for example, you hop on a ski erg for 15 cows, then you do 15 wall balls, then you do 3 rope climbs, then you do 15 burpees, then you do 15 cal on a bike, and you do that for 35 minutes, steady state. Don't go crazy, work through it.
Yeah, well, I would say at that point, then my goal would be to, if I was to tell an athlete, or if I was to do it or whatever, then my goal would to be as efficient as possible.
Yep.
I just think back to what was Glassman's coach, go through it again, and this time focus on the basics even more.
Yes.
Something to that extent.
Yeah, like once you reach mastery, you revisit the basics. It's not like you keep chasing new levels. You go back, you restart.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm assuming there's probably, if I'm to do that with the ski erg and the bike and the wall balls and rope climbs, I can probably, become more efficient. Or maybe, I would treat that as like, hey, I only do the J hook rope climb. Maybe I'm try Spanish wrap. Another tool in the toolbox. Never know when you may never need it. You may want it someday. You never know.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a great time where if it's slow, steady state, why wouldn't you work on some sort of a skill that you can get better at, that you can just have in the bank in case you need it at some point?
Yeah. And I really find the value in this for athletes who have developed that broad base of aerobic fitness, where they've spent some time pounding some pavement. They've shown that they've got some capacity and potential for some success at this sport. And what they need now is that exposure to the mixed modal movements for skill work and development, but also in like the way that our body physiologically responds to blood pressure and lactate buildup. Meaning like it's one thing to be great at wall balls. It's another thing to be great coming off a bike, going into wall balls, going into rope climbs, going into ring muscle ups. And we don't always have to do it really, really high intensity in order to at least start to provide this opportunity for learning experiences and feel from the way our grip feels, from the way that, okay, man, I really lollygagged in that transition, took an extra couple seconds, and that did help me feel great. Or, you know what, I kind of rushed that transition and I feel still fine. So now I know I have permission to speed up on that. And like, when I'm doing this at the high threshold, the only reason I'm slowing down is because I'm being a coward instead of actually needing to rest, right? Like these kind of conversations can often happen for ourselves. And I started to utilize this a good bit in the latter years of my competing. Last time I went to the games as a master's athlete in 21, I used it because my training volume was down overall. So like my hours spent in the gym compared to like 2011 through 2017 is way down because I'm doing adult things and I got a couple kids and all the stuff. But what I started to do was mix in, I'd train in the gym pretty hard for 60 minutes. 60 to 70 minutes is basically the window that was magic for me, about 4 days a week, really hard. And then there were another 2 to 3 sessions where I would like have a 20-minute running clock, but I'd still do skills. I'd be like doing like, 5 kipping swings into 5 toes to bar. And then I'd do 3 wall walks into 3 handstand pushups. And then I'd do some double unders. And then because these skills, because my reduction of volume wasn't allowing me the frequency to like touch all the stuff, I was just touching it and it was practice, but I was also kind of breathing hard, but I wasn't punishing myself. And the next day I didn't feel like trash. So it was a way for me to mix it in. And I think that that's, prevalent. It's something that I certainly want to explore with our group training and a lot of the one-to-ones that I work with, that I know that I've developed through a couple years. And now they're at this point where it's like, now we want to reach mastery and like having that high level of fitness. So it can be still aerobic. We can still be able to kind of chat back and forth a little bit as we go through this, but the idea is to be focused more on task specific outcomes and not just sitting on a bike mindlessly.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yep.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's in the weeds, if there's a tremendous amount of value. I'm sure that other people have experimented with it and do it a lot, but we just know that there's such a difference. And I've certainly seen this where like, hey, someone could be great at something and great at another thing. And then you put them together and they're not great at it. And it's just a lack of exposure. It's not necessarily a lack of intensity or lack of capacity. It's a lack of exposure to that combination. And this provides that. And I don't think we're in this game anymore, man, but you know it because of the time that we both found the sport. But like Rich's biggest advantage against everybody, I think at the time, my personal opinion was that he moved so well that he was so tolerant of volume that he simply always had all these understandings for how he felt in every situation with all the unique combinations of movements. And everyone else could only train for an hour, they'd get hurt, or train for 2 hours and they'd get hurt, or only do, 10 workouts a week and they'd get hurt. Or Rich was doing 30 workouts a week though. Yeah. Right. Rich was doing 30 workouts in 3 days or 4 days. And he was also only, it's just, what a freak. Right. But the big thing that, again, I know I'm ranting at this point, but it's like, to me, one of the biggest separators was that he was able to gain all of, yes, the fitness. And of course we know he had that in droves, but it was more about his approach, his understanding, and then that psychological advantage that it lended itself over everybody else. Cause he knew what to do, when to do it.
Yep. I mean, you can go back and look at, old day in the life of Rich Froning videos that Savan would do. And you'd see that. I mean, he'd do what, 10, 15-minute EMOM of 3 squat cleans at 185 or something like that. Not hard for him. No. I would assume not challenging at all. Yep. But he's just working on moving perfectly. Oh, how can I make these touch and go better? Whatever. Right. Obviously, that's probably extreme for like the normal person because that might wreck some people. But I mean, I think he did that with everything. He would do rowing intervals, and the whole point was to hold this pace and to work on this movement pattern or whatever.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, but it wasn't high intensity.
No. But people don't think of that because they think of Rich Froning now. What's he doing right now? Oh, okay, then I need to be doing that. It's like, dude, look back when he started. I mean, and here's something. If people think they're that good, okay, go do any open workout in 2011. See if you beat him.
Yeah,
you probably won't, dude. I've freaking done them, and you're just like, how do these dudes get so many more rounds than me?
Yeah,
10 years later, what is going on here?
Yeah.
It's kind of depressing, but at the same time, it just kind of, gets your head wrapped around like, dude, you need to be looking at what they did back then and start implementing that, not what they're doing now, because they've had another 15 years underneath their belt than when they started,
Correct. Yeah. And that's, that's funny because that's something that I always learned from Tommy Hackenbrook, and we always thought this way, but it's like, you either have to be, if you're with the curve, right? Like meaning like, hey, we were in that group of athletes trying to chase Rich and be competitive with him and Jason Khalipa and all the greats, Miko Salo and all these guys, the Chris Spieler, the Matt Chans, like these guys that were just had an obnoxious amount of fitness. But it was like, in order to have a chance to stay with them, you actually had to think ahead. And so it was like, what are we doing now? How do we evolve this to be ahead of them? What are they doing? Oh, we got to do that a little bit better. How can we think ahead in this movement? What's going to be tested next? And so, yeah, a lot of people get caught up looking side to side. They're like, oh, what are these guys doing now? And it's like, no, man, go back and learn from the history and then think about where are these guys that you're watching and chasing trying to go. If you can't be one step ahead of them, which, man, I could rant again. I'm sorry, folks, this takes me to another topic, but it's like athletes competing too much, man. Athletes competing too much. You can't go get into your bag of training and build real fitness, real organic fitness that's going to set you apart. So you can actually beat the Jason Hopper at the CrossFit Games or beat a healthy Jeff Adler at the CrossFit Games, because you're trying to compete and beat them like every 2 months. You're not going to pass them doing that. You're not going to do that. So it's like people have to respect this, what it looks like to hop in on good training, hop in on consistency, which, okay, there we go. That takes me back to compliance a little bit. You got to be consistent. All this stuff that we've ranted about the last, 40 minutes or so, which we'll get ready to put a plug in this thing, comes back to compliance, folks. And I think that, Chans and I can shoot it, and we'll continue to do this for different episodes and in different ways for you guys. But the idea is to understand that, we've been around for a while. We know a thing or two. We clearly have a new program that we've thrown out to everybody. It's just an all access right now. It's a $19.99 price point for everybody. That price is going to go up on January 1. But if you hop in now, you can keep that discount. Now, the unique thing about this, and the reason that we brought up compliance early, is because you get access to all of the programs that we have. There's True Endurance, there's True Strength, there's True Gymnastics, there's True 60, there's True 30, there's True Competitor Pro. And then we've also got, what am I missing? True Aesthetics. And so part of that is that you have access to all these programs, but you can also message a coach and also get some feedback on the movements that are required. So if you got questions about your stats, you can submit a video and hope to get feedback once a week with whatever you got. Send it in. You can send it to us in a message form. We're going to do our best to get to you and, of course, answer any questions that you got about scaling or anything. The reason that we created this is because we know the biggest obstacle, which is you following through on your training. So you got some options. If you want to be like me and be a cherry picker, you can. I'm in on True Competitor a couple days a week, but I'm old. I'm 40. My body's broken. And so I like to hop in on True Endurance every now and again because I need the reprieve. And sometimes I just need to sit on a rower and do some intervals. But man, what's your training look like right now, Chance? What are you doing? Are you just doing the gym's programming or what?
Yeah, I just program for the gym, and usually, I mean, not always, but a lot of like the stuff that I put in the competitors are like, I'll try variations of them before and kind of see and tweak them here and there and do things like that as well. So I kind of test them a little bit to get a feel for them. But yeah, I just kind of, I got 4 kids, 6 and under, so it's chaos. So I just kind of, we live at the gym pretty much, it seems like. So I just try to get it in there. And then, I want a home gym. I just need a freaking house with a garage to get a home gym. And then I'd like one. And then I could do a little more stuff. So that's kind of just what I'm doing now. But
yeah. Well, I think that's plenty, man. That's plenty. Look, here's the deal. When you got 4 kids, it's like if you hit a decent workout throughout the day and then you're chasing them around, you're getting plenty of extra work in.
Yeah,
getting plenty of extra work, and then add to your list that you're coaching those classes. And we all know people that have been in the grind before and coached multiple classes a day for long periods of time. Like it's one of those grinds that's only special, and you can't really describe it. You just got to go live it. So I totally understand where you're coming from there. Well, cool, man. We'll put a wrap on this one. Been a great episode. Hopefully we've given people some training context, some inspiration on how to maybe tweak their training, how to adjust even the competitor track, and some of the programs that we're offering in the True All Access platform. If you guys have any questions, reach out to us. If you guys have anything specific that you'd like for us to chat about on these podcasts, please reach out. You can send us an email. You can send me an email, Adrian at TTRUfitness.com. You could also find us on Instagram and slide us a DM. But until you do that, we'll just keep coming up with some topics that are especially prevalent going into this time of year and going into the CrossFit Open, which is, 15 weeks out or so, but it's going to get here before we know it, because time is an absolute thief and it's going way too fast for me every day. But anyways, thanks for joining us, folks. Thanks, Chance. And we'll see you guys next time. In the meantime, keep rising.